Hey y'all, welcome to another Fight Back Friday. This one's not scripted, so we'll see how it goes. It's been a bit of a week with migraines and busyness, and I want to get this out though because this is so important. Such an important thing for all of us to understand. So this week's Fight Back Friday is about something called conformity bias. And conformity bias is our tendency to alter our beliefs and our behaviors to fit in with others. And we sometimes just say, oh, well, this is what we believe or this is what we think, when we really don't, because we want to fit in, or we do things that we really don't believe in to fit in. And sometimes it becomes a hardwired part of who we are. Like, we fully shift our beliefs about something to be in line with what we believe the majority feels or believes. And the crazy thing about this is we end up shifting our beliefs to something that people actually don't believe. So I was introduced to this idea in a book called Collective Illusions. It's by Todd Rose. It's a really good book. It's on my books we all need list. Eventually there will be a book review video on this one. Eventually. But Collective Illusions by Todd Rose. And he talks about conformity bias. He explains it isn't optional. It's a hardwired part of our biology. Imagine, like, you're trying to survive in a hunter-gatherer society where there are things that will actually eat you on a regular basis in your day-to-day life. And you need to be part of the in-group to survive. You need people to hunt with, farm with. You need someone that you can take turns protecting each other while you sleep. Conformity bias is evolutionary. It's normal. So we're not beating ourselves up over having it. But we also need to understand that it's a thing and that it does exist. In the book, in the introduction, he shares about a study in 2016 where participants were asked to rate foods in terms of, like, their personal preference. Do they like it? Do they not like it? You know, healthy foods like broccoli, and then less healthy foods, junk foods like candy. And after the subjects rated their preference for a food, they saw a word would come up on this screen as they were in this MRI machine that told them whether or not whether or not the group, the majority agreed with their like or dislike of the food. So then they had them do this a second time with the same foods, and their likes and dislikes changed that fast. Like, loop the pictures, agree or disagree, like or don't like, get the agree, loop the pictures again, and all of a sudden their preferences for certain foods were falling more in line with the majority. They were conforming that quickly. And the part of the brain that was involved in processing the different foods was actually overwritten by the conformity. So again, hardwired part of our biology, we feel this intense need to conform and fit in. And what the subjects didn't know is that, I'm going to read this to you, the group averages were entirely made up, manipulated by the researchers to make it seem like the participants were going against the group. This is important because it reveals something fundamental about our bias toward conformity. Reality doesn't matter. More precisely, our brains respond to what we believe about the group, regardless of whether or not that belief is rooted in truth. He gives another example of this guy who went and lived in this town where there was this older woman in the town who was kind of like this old dowager, and she made it very clear that cards, they were like a sin and nobody should be playing cards, And so people would not play cards. They wouldn't go out and do bridge or whatever. But this researcher, like 77% of the people in this town, told this research student that they had no problem playing with face cards, like, a deck of cards. But they believed that the majority of people in their community were in favor of a strict prohibition of doing so. So let's just put that in a little bit of perspective. So 77% of the residents of this town were like, oh yeah, we could play with cards, no issue, no problem. But then when they said how many other people feel like it's okay to play with cards versus how many people think there should be a strict prohibition against card playing because, you know, that's sin or whatever. The majority of those 77% of people who all agreed that cards were not a problem thought that other people thought cards were a problem. So your head might be going, whoa, I can't grasp this right now. I'm scattered. Oh, the joys of not having a script, but it's okay. What that basically means is we have this tendency to believe one thing and feel one way, but then we won't live out that belief or behave necessarily according to that belief if we think that other people feel differently. And that ties into this idea that we have to start talking to each other. We have to talk about politics. We have to communicate with our neighbors. We have to realize that our enemy is not the person across the street from us who had a Trump sign or a Harris sign, or that person who has rainbow hair cut short and doesn't fit into cultural norms of femininity, or our LGBTQ neighbor. We have to stop making enemies out of each other, because that is a false division pushed and perpetuated by those people who wish to remain in control. And it's like the Ants movie. If you've ever seen the Ants movie, like, I'm pulling from the massive Wayback Archives because this was decades ago, but the grasshoppers that are oppressing the ants, the one grasshopper in charge is like, you know, we can't let them know that we're oppressing them. We can't let them know that they have any power or that they can even work together, because as soon as they unite, we're fucked, right? There are 340 some million people in America. 1% of the people in America are part of this ultra wealthy. So that would be like 3.4 million people. That leaves, let's see, 340 minus 3. That leaves about 336 million to 337 million of us who are fed up, potentially, probably fed up with this shit. I should be able to buy groceries. My kids should be able to go to college and not end up with 6 figures in debt like I did. If there's a medical thing going on, I should be able to go to the doctor. Like, my doctor left our clinic. They can't even rehire anyone. They're like still working on it. Because guess what? People don't want to be doctors anymore. They're tired of dealing with the corporate bullshit from pharmaceutical companies and these health insurance corporations that own the clinic, the insurance company, the pharmacy, all of the things. It's a giant scam. It's a monopoly. It's antitrust, but we're not holding these people accountable. And why? Because we keep believing these lies about what we think other people want or what's possible. And it's all possible. It would cost us less money individually to have universal health care than we are paying for health care now as a nation. You would save money by going with what Bernie is promoting, an AOC, universal health care. It's insanity, people, but it's also hardwired biology nature. Like, it's the way our brains work. So we don't need to beat ourselves up, but we do need to be aware. So for Fight Back Friday, our job is to work against that conformity bias and those collective illusions and begin to actually talk to our neighbors and get to know each other and figure out what people do really want. Because it's probably a lot different than what you think. And if we realize that we are all in this together, red and blue, liberal, conservative, progressive, immigrant, native born, truly native born, like indigenous people that were here way before any of us, right? Like, if we all work together and start listening to each other and caring about each other as fellow humans with human rights, then we can unite and fight against this garbage that's been dragging us down. Like, I remember as a kid, the days when you could afford things. Like, if you had one working parent, you could afford a mortgage on a decent house in a decent neighborhood with a yard and at least one, if not two cars, and a vacation, like in the summer. I remember when that was a thing, and it's not like that anymore. And I mean, it wasn't like that for everybody, right? There were definitely people who were being oppressed and denied entry into these places of stability, redlining, things like that. I'm not saying that wasn't a thing, but we were in a space back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s when the marginal tax rate was high, when lobbyists were not swarming DC to try and promote their special interests, when our tax code was more progressive, not regressive, which is what it is now. Something like 6% of income for ultra wealthy goes to taxes, while the middle class is paying like 30, 35. How is that fair? That somebody who has millions of dollars pays like 6% in taxes, while somebody that's barely pushing for six figures is paying 30% of that and having little left to live on or enjoy life with after they bust their ass all week working hard. So your working class neighbor, your middle class neighbor, your impoverished neighbor who might be homeless or on benefits, like, we're not the enemy. They're not the enemy. None of us is each other's enemy. The enemy is the oligarchy, the broligarchy, the billionaire class that will do anything in their power to seize and maintain control and make the rest of us promote, build up their wealth and their station. It's like the comic where you've got all these people playing, I don't know, a card game or something on a table, and that table is on the back of the working class. The second we stand up, the game is over. And it is a game. Nobody earns that kind of wealth. Check out my other videos. There's a video where I explain why Elon Musk essentially made $297 million an hour if compared to wages from the inauguration to February 11th. I'm happy that people are now like saying fuck Tesla, and he's starting to get a taste of what it's like when you go against the working class and you start prioritizing billionaires over our children and our elderly and our families. We have to fight back because what's happening is not fair. It's not right. And if we don't start fighting back, it will never be too late, but like literally too late, but it will be too late for a lot of people. Look at the immigrants just being yanked out of our country, even though they're here legally. Just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean you're not next. Another good one, the meme, like when they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything. When they came for the Polish, I didn't say anything. When they came for the Catholics, I didn't say anything. When they came for the disabled, I didn't say anything. When they came for me, there was no one left. We have to fight back now, and the way we're going to be able to do that successfully is by uniting. Look at the rally in Colorado, like 30-some thousand people. Like, enough is enough. Look at the farmers, the MAGA farmers in the Midwest that are now flying their Trump flags upside down. If you haven't noticed the Lead Spoons logo, there's a reason that there's a little bit of an askew to that red, white, and blue. Our country is in grave danger. We are a mess, and it's not going to get better until we unite with each other and we hold the people in government accountable for what they are doing, but also what they are not doing. And that's Republicans and Democrats. Democrats are bystanders. They haven't done shit. That's why they're losing elections. They're not standing up for the working class, even though they're supposed to be the working class party. And Republicans are just lying to us. Oh, we're going to cut Medicaid, but we're going to give trillions in tax breaks to the wealthy because it's going to trickle down. If you look at the data, trickle down is bullshit. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. We've been doing this failed experiment for like 40 years since Reaganomics. It doesn't work. The data is clear. Trickle down is not a good economic policy for a strong middle class. It destroys the middle class. Yeah, I'm getting totally, that's why I need a script, because 5 minutes turns into 15, ADHD, wild, crazy, whatever brain. But the big takeaway, the call to action for this Fight Back Friday is understand conformity bias and collective illusions. Understand that that person you're arguing with on the internet, that random stranger that's going back and forth with you on whatever, they're not the enemy, so don't be an asshole to them. And if they're an asshole to you, kind of call it out kindly and say, no, I don't let people treat me this way. It's not how I roll. And start working together, because if the ants unite, the grasshoppers are fucked. And we need to unite. We have to unite to save our country and make our country great again, because it's not. It's not great, and it's not getting any greater. It's not. And that, yeah, that's a Republican whatever MAGA thing, but the Democrats are just as much to blame for that. They are just as much culpable for that, because they're all having cocktails together at cocktail parties after they put on a show on the Senate floor for all the rest of us screaming at each other. They don't, like, the majority of them don't hate each other the way we might think they do. There's a few standouts that I could name, but I won't, because I'm trying to, like, make this about us and not them. Make this about us, the working class, not about specific politicians, although there are a few really good ones out there that I hope y'all will get to come to be aware of. So yeah, Fight Back Friday. What's happening is not right, it's not fair, and we must fight back before it's too late. So go get to know the people in your neighborhood. Go do some Mr. Rogers. All right, thanks for joining for this Fight Back Friday, and I hope to see you for next week. Please like, subscribe, and share, because I want this to unite us all. We have to be united. So get the word out, talk to people, don't hide, don't be afraid, don't think that someone's not going to like you because you're talking about politics. I mean, they might not, they might get mad or not want to be around you, but the only way to find out the ones who want to fight back is to start talking and see who responds. So let's fight back by working together. All right, take care.